Do its thing.
Dogs in the yard, might need a guard. Every loss, taking to heart. Me first, that cannot be. Must be these underdog episodes, see? Feeling much better, so suddenly. Under the Monica G. Crafted at night while all of them sleep. I won't look a fool, taking this tool. Defeating the opposition around me. No, I'm not sorry. Yes, I'm taking this knowledge and pride. Just barking no harm, don't be startled. Yes, I'm taking the title, and it's so vital. Thanks for the ride, I'll never be idle. Turn up the dial, it's about to get wild. And the points gon' pile up.
Dynasty underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now. Dynasty underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 162 of Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Uriah Dawkins. Joining me tonight, Billy Beeman. What's up?
Not much, man. Week one, it's over. I can't, like, it's wild. We're here. We have points have been scored, games have been won. Everybody, all the listeners are asking, just can we get a week one recap? So it's I'm excited for this one, man. We got people like engaged, and yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
Try to do our best here. Let's start off with just some regular news and nonsense. Most of it's bad, so let's move past it.
Jesus.
The big one, J.K. Dobbins, the guy that we just talked about last week, and we've been kind of, I guess, high on over the last few months. Just kind of excited to see what he could do. Finally healthy, a year removed from the ACL and all that, and he goes out there and he basically ends his career with an Achilles injury.
Why you got to do that to the kid? Ends his career. I mean, for fantasy purposes, ends his career. I mean, I think we've seen guys come back from worse than what J.K. Dobbins is. I mean, look, we're seeing Tariq Cohen come back after 2 years into the league here. So, I think, it's obviously a devastating injury, the Achilles injury. He's likely to never be the same player. If I'm out on Cam Akers after that kind of thing, I'm definitely going to be out on J.K. Dobbins, who won't even be on the Ravens any longer, the offense that I think we were so excited to see him in. So, yeah, it's like I said, devastating. It's terrible news. I hate it. I was high on him. I actually, fortunately, at this point, don't have many shares. I really have one that I can think of. I think one share. I think I have some in redraft and whatnot, but I think I have one share that I can think of that it really hurts my team, to be honest. But yeah, not much you can do. I think really for me, from a dynasty perspective, the only thing you can do is like hold on to him, because what are you going to do? Sell for a couple fourths? And like, what does that do for you really? Like, I wonder if there's ever kind of, he gets onto another team with some juice, the James Robinson type, little hype thing coming back from it. And you can maybe get, something better than a fourth for him. So one way or another, I think I'll probably just let him perish on my roster, whatever that may look like.
If you went and just dropped him, like, I still wouldn't blame you.
It's just like, you don't need to. I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess if you're in 30 plus roster or 30 plus roster spot league, probably have no space for him. But yeah, and he's going to be on IR for a while, so you don't need to drop him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. At the next one, Deontay.
You just want to get rid of J.K. Dobbins. That's what it is.
I have one in Dynasty. It's actually DU3. I messed up, and I was betting on bounce backs from all these running backs that were going late-ish. So I got like Dobbins, Swift, and Javonte. Mm-hmm. And so that's a whole ton of risk I took on, and already we'll
paying
see.
For it. Yeah. I feel that.
But it's a freak accident. It happens, right? So you can't predict that kind of stuff to happen. But
it's ridiculous. I mean, week one was great, exciting, but also just tragedy all around. Like it was a mixed bag, bittersweet.
It started rough before the games even played. We're like, damn, I gotta redo my rosters like 3-4 times.
Yeah.
All right, Deontay Johnson. It looked painful. They're saying he's going to be out for a few weeks, and that's going to be, I think it's exactly 4 weeks. Like it doesn't. From what I saw, I'm no doctor, by the way, but from what I saw, that looked like a very painful situation.
Yeah, we clearly have a conditioning issue, at least at the beginning of the season for the NFL teams, and obviously it has something to do with not fully getting ramped up, being worried about, preseason injuries and all that nonsense. But similar, it reminds me of kind of the Jerry Jeudy injury in terms of severity. So I think it's going to be similar to that. His just happened early in the season, or before the season rather. Yeah, this sucks for Deontay. I mean, I think he dropped a touchdown in this game. Could have had a much bigger game. Yeah, I don't know. The Steelers didn't look great, but this sucks, man. Like I have a fair amount of Deontay, and it's kind of a couple years in a row. He's clearly prone to soft tissue injuries. I wouldn't say he's injury prone, but he's definitely prone to those type of injuries. I mean, he's dealt with them last couple of years. So yeah, hopefully he gets back from this. But these things linger, man. This sucks. It sucks.
It does. Next one, not quite as important, but just a guy that I know that a lot of people do care about. And we're expecting high things out. Greg Dulcich, I think a similar situation. He's going to be out a few weeks also.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, though, I think if you were paying attention to that game, you're paying attention to preseason, you're paying attention to all the happenings around Denver and the tight ends there, Troutman is already kind of leaped ahead of Dulcich. He had already done that preseason, and in this game, even before the injury, I think he was getting a fair bit of run from what I recall, and getting targeted a fair bit regardless of Dulcich being out there or not. So I think they like Troutman. I mean, clearly it's
Sean
holdover.
But Sean Payton.
Sean Payton, yeah. Holdover, bring over, whatever you want to call him. He brought him over after drafting him in New Orleans. So it's a guy that he's comfortable with, a guy he likes. So I think that this can only enhance that kind of relationship and his role on the team. So I don't really – I mean, I dropped Dulcich in a redraft league after him being kind of my only tight end. Obviously, you're not doing that in Dynasty or anything like that, but just my level of concern is pretty much like I'm going to try all my other options before I put him back in. I'm going to need to see it before I believe it.
All right, the last bit of bad news.
The worst.
Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers with an Achilles. Played 3 snaps, 4 snaps?
4. Didn't even get a pass off.
Yeah, I saw. I shouldn't laugh just because it's funny. I try to be as not serious as possible about these things. But someone was like, "Oh, it's 5 snaps if you count the Achilles."
Oh damn! I didn't see that. Yeah. That was actually really good. That was.
It's
that was
so
a genuine
clever
reaction.
that you're like, okay. Yeah. But still, that sucks, man. Like I was really. I know people have their thoughts about Aaron Rodgers because he's such a polarizing individual off the field and unapologetic about how he goes about his business. And some people don't like it. Some people do. Some people don't care. Kind of like me. It's whatever. I respect a lot of it just because of whatever. But I was really kind of hoping to see the Jets with a competent quarterback. And I like Robert Saleh. And I think he's putting together a team there, a really good team there. A really good defense. And I thought they could really kind of compete there in that division. And honestly, just in the AFC altogether, I thought they can make a run for this with a really competent quarterback. And then he only gets them out there for a couple plays, and then he's back to Zach Wilson, which I'm sure he's really stoked about. And I'm sure we're all very stoked about seeing Zach Wilson.
I mean, you could see it on his face on the side. You literally could see it on his face on the sideline. He was dejected and knew that really I gotta deal with this guy again.
I don't know.
No, I mean, you kind of nailed the overarching point, or what matters here is that it sucks for the NFL. It sucks for us as fans, in general, right? Even if you don't like Aaron Rodgers, that team was a Super Bowl contender with him on it. And it's a playoff contender still, but it's certainly not a Super Bowl contender anymore. And that sucks. For 4 snaps, your season kind of just, it's not over by any means, but a lot of the hope is lost. And, I guess Josh Allen kind of imploded, but you could see that defense is legit.
Oh yeah.
And they went out and they beat the Bills anyway without Aaron Rodgers. So they can ball, that's for sure. And it's just tough knowing that, and knowing that they don't really have the offense or really the quarterback to kind of back it up in the end to really push them over the top. So I think we're going to be frustrated a lot of the season seeing them in some certain situations being like, man, if that was Aaron Rodgers, both for fantasy and for real life, like they would have come back, and also Garrett Wilson would have had a touchdown or an extra 50 yards, whatever it is. So I think it really
100%.
hurts. It really hurts all of the Jets players, maybe minus Breece Hall, who, was really, I think, the highlight of the game in the end of it. I mean, he didn't look himself necessarily. Like you could tell that he's not fully comfortable with it and doesn't have like the long range speed yet back. But I mean, he was making guys, he was breaking guys' ankles, making guys miss, and he was gaining tons of yards after the line of scrimmage. So very impressive. Very excited to see what he can do the rest of the year. And Dalvin Cook is cooked.
We kind of knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick before we move on, sorry, we definitely kind of we buried the lead here a little bit. Aaron Rodgers with the Achilles, obviously out this whole year. We don't know if he's going to come back. I mean, it seems to me like it would be very difficult for a guy like him to step away, no pun intended, after an injury like like this, and just 4 snaps, and with the team they have, right? Because going into next year, Garrett Wilson's not going anywhere, Breece Hall's not going anywhere, Gardner's not going anywhere, right? The whole team is going to be there again. So I think he's going to want to be there next year. I think a lot of people are going to panic, want to move on from him. You could get a quarterback on the cheap here. If I recall, Dan Marino, way back when, came back from an Achilles injury and was still electric. He still had the arm, he didn't ever really move anyway. Aaron Rodgers obviously moved, but I think that he could make it work, and I think he can come back and be a competent quarterback. And with that roster, I mean, yeah, it's like having Peyton Manning, right? It's almost like having Peyton Manning his last year in Denver. So
sure,
the kind of what I'm talking around here is I think that he still maintains some value, still has some dynasty value, and I wouldn't mind trying to work out something to get him. I don't know. Maybe it would have to be a package. Maybe if you could just do it straight up for a future second and just risk your second and just call it a day. I don't know. But I think there's still something left there. And I think he has, a reason to come back and play.
Yeah. I don't think he wants to go out this way. And I think it's going to be easier for a quarterback to come back from Achilles than somebody who has to cut like a running back. So again, I'm no doctor, but I don't think this is the last we see of Aaron Rodgers.
Totally.
All right, cool. So it's that time of year. Probably a lot of the guys who listen have seen a lot of this data, but I just kind of want to go over year 1, year 2 route participation data from Spaceman. Just kind of touch on some of the guys, maybe in the top 10, some that we maybe didn't see in the fantasy points box score, but as far as usage being on the field and the opportunity that was given to them, just something to kind of look at. So I'm going to kind of breeze through this, but at the top, I'm not sure where this number comes from, but they have Isaiah Likely route participation at over 100%. I'm sure that's a mistake, but he was out there quite a bit with Mark Andrews out. Second, Zay Flowers. Everybody knows this. 93.3% route participation. Zay Flowers looked like a stud with the ball in his hands. They tried to get him the ball frequently, and when he did have the ball, he looked amazing. Carolina's Jonathan Mingo, 93% route participation. Traylon Burks, 92.5 route participation. Michael Wilson, a guy that we talked about with Arizona. Again, it's not really an offense I really want to be involved in, but the dude was out there a lot. Didn't get a whole ton of targets, but he was out there a lot, running a lot of routes. I think he ran, over 30 routes, 31 routes. Drake London, 0, put up a dub for everybody, but he was out there 91% of the time running routes. He had the opportunity to, but his quarterback is boo-boo. And I don't know what we're going to do about any of that.
We tried to tell you Ritter was not the answer, but here we are anyway.
They should do something about that. Next one, Puka Nacua.
They should take him out back and
anything's got to be better than Ritter. Jesus Christ. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan. Also, Bijan was out there for a lot of routes too, by the way. Mm-hmm. He's going to be the truth. Next one, Puka Nacua. Everybody knows about him now. If you didn't before, you do now for sure. We talked about him last week. where while we thought that Cup was out, he would have an opportunity to be pretty fantasy viable. He was out there for 89.7% route participation, and he looked like an absolute stud. Probably one of those guys that was out there in waivers, not in Dynasty, but maybe in your redraft leagues. He was out there in waivers, and he was probably one of the guys that went for the most fab out of anybody. Rookie tight end Luke Musgrave was out there for 80% of the route participations. This kind of falls in line with what we saw in preseason, where Luke Musgrave was pretty much out there every single snap that the starting offense was out there. Chico Okonkwo, he was out there for 80% of the route participation, but I don't think he really did a whole lot for you, but it is encouraging to see that he was out there. Next one, Bijan Robinson.
Ryan Tannehill's throwing 3 picks. It's hard to.
I know. He's not the answer either, but there's nothing behind him that's probably worth it either. Otherwise, I'd probably start him. Bijan Robinson. Man, that split is kind of crazy with Tyler Algier. They hate fantasy players in Atlanta right now, so I don't know what to do about that, but Bijan's going to carve out a role. He's just so much better than anything else they have. And then the next one is Josh Downs, then Kate Otten, Kayshon Boutte, Sam Laporta, Kyron Williams, which is another surprise, Jaden Reed, and Jordan Addison. So all those guys were out there available to be targeted. Whether or not they were or not doesn't really matter at this point in time, but they're out there getting their money, and they were involved. So I guess the takeaway is if anybody was high on this list that didn't score a lot this week, it's still somebody that I'm very interested in having on my team. It just didn't pan out for him in week 1. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think the main story has to be, it really just has to be Arthur Smith and the Falcons. Like it's, I can't stop looking at my Drake London shares with the 0 points. I mean, it's really hard to understand, also just with Tyler Algier, I don't even know how you say it, but just with the usage there and the split there, I get you want to kind of, slowly work Bijan in, but to not give him a goal line carry is jarring. It's just strange, like you don't want to get him any experience down there. You know what I mean? You guys had multiple. It's just kind of strange, the usage. So I guess you shouldn't worry about that going forward. That's the least of the worries on this team, given Drake London comes away with 0 catches and Kyle Pitts just 2. Though they were explosive plays for Kyle Pitts, which is definitely encouraging. But yeah, for me, like I think the biggest takeaway is that as much opportunity as London's going to get in terms of route participation, I don't even know if it matters. Like. I don't know if it matters, especially, with Ritter back there. He doesn't seem to kind of be able to read the field well, doesn't seem to just really be able to get the ball on target. I mean, one of the Kyle Pitts throws was good. I saw one that was behind him. I saw, it's just, he's not polished. It's going to be tough all year long with these guys. But the fact that they're not targeting them more and kind of trying to, I think, get Drake London involved on more of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a game plan perspective, it just seems like he's not really part of it, which is really concerning.
Yeah. On the other hand, on the same team though, Tajay Spears, we should probably talk about real quick. He was out there for quite a bit of the routes. I think they have a plan of using Tajay alongside Derrick Henry at a pretty decent clip, which is probably in their best interest to like take some of the load off of Derrick Henry. But he was out there. He had a couple targets. Something to keep on. So keep an eye on.
I mean, it's definitely a good point. I'm worried about Derrick Henry. I saw that game, and I mean, you could just see that he's going to take some of the targets. I mean, Derrick Henry still had a really explosive catch and run.
Like 60 yards or something like that, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But you could even see, I mean, just from the first game usage for Henry, I think they are intent on kind of not overworking him, especially early on.
Yeah, which is, I think it's fine. If he plays a full season this year, that'd be awesome.
I mean, look, he got 15 carries for 63 yards and 3 catches. I mean, three targets, and he caught 2 of them for 56. But the thing is like, I think we're used to a much more high volume workload for him, around 20 attempts a game or more. I mean, we've seen him near the 30 range, which is just, that's where you want to be. And obviously they were, in a tough game there, I think they had to pass the ball a little bit, but I don't know. seems a little concerning to me, kind of his usage.
Cool. So this is a fun topic for week one. I mean, maybe we might even do this for a few weeks just because it's topical and fun. So what did we learn and what stood out to us? Week one's a big one. This is kind of where we'll kind of recap what we thought, what we saw. So first thing that kind of came to mind was Jordan Love. He might actually be good. I didn't expect the Green Bay Packers to come out and put 30 plus on the team. I looked up Jordan Love, EPA. He was out there and he was making all the throws that he's supposed to make, and he didn't make a whole lot of mistakes. I know you haven't been too high on him, and we didn't really know what to see from him. And we talked about this actually a couple of years ago when we were saying that, he was drafted in the first round. Like, no matter what happens, like, teams want to see what their first round quarterbacks are going to do. And this is his time. And he came out there and he actually looked serviceable. What did you see from Jordan Love?
Yeah. I mean, what was he? He was 15 for 27. So that's not great. But 245 for 3 touchdowns definitely made it work. Chicago. I mean, definitely he looked, he's going against Atlanta. I don't think they're great. So definitely has an opportunity here to do something again. He was definitely better than I expected. I mean, in the limited action that I saw, he was better than I expected. But I'm still not really sold, I guess. I guess I need to see more. I mean, Aaron Jones had a massive game, right? Like, I think, I don't know. Again, he was 15 for 27. He was almost, 50% completion percentage. He had scored 3 touchdowns, which makes everything look a lot better. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to need to see a little bit more, but it's encouraging for sure for the Jordan Love hive.
Yeah, he didn't make a lot of bad decisions, which I think is the story there, I guess. All right, next one, Zay Flowers.
That's huge.
Yeah, sorry. Zay Flowers, we talked about already, but like it does look like he very easily could be the wide receiver 1 in Baltimore. I think OBJ ended up with a higher target share, but Zay Flowers had a lot of designed passes to him, and again, he just looked like the most explosive player on that whole entire field.
I actually didn't even see OBJ's stat line, but that's kind of wild if he did edge him out in target share, because
I think so.
What he caught 9 of 10, I think Zay Flowers did, and he also had, obviously this doesn't impact his target share, but he had 2 rush attempts too. So I mean, the kid's touching the ball like that's huge, a lot. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk again about size in terms of wide receivers and if they can be successful in this league. And I think we talked about, and I said this in one of our episodes in the last month or two about, size matters unless you are like incredibly good at something, unless you're elite at something. Right. And I think, you watch Zay Flowers out there just absolutely juke defenders out of their shoes. Like, this kid has the sauce, and I'm excited to see what he can do going forward. He's definitely the real deal, and I think he's absolutely their wide receiver 1 long term.
I don't want to do Zay Flowers any disservice, but he looks like what Kadarius Toney looks like once the ball's actually secured into his hands, which doesn't happen very often. But when he actually has a hold of a ball, Kadarius Toney does a similar thing. Only Zay Flowers can catch.
That's a great one. He is Kadarius Toney if Kadarius Toney didn't have bricks for hands. That's
exactly right. Ding. All right, next one, Puka Nacua. We talked about dude had 15 targets, absolutely destroyed this. Oh, I love it. So I live in Seattle, as you guys know, and so I listen to like Seattle sports media because I am a Mariners fan, so I listen for baseball, and then they have to talk about football, which sucks. But the announcers and all the local media like 2 months ago were like, man, NFC, you have San Francisco, you have Dallas, you have Philly, and then it's got to be us, right? They're not even talking about like wild card at this point. They're talking about winning a division and all this other stuff. And then after that game, it's just like it sounded like someone like killed their dog. They were just so depressed. But anyways, yeah, Puka Nacua, Matt Stafford looked really good. Tutu Atwell, the ghost of Tutu Atwell came around and had like over 100 yards. Do you think this continues when Cup comes back?
Probably not.
When Cup comes back.
Yeah. If he doesn't come back, obviously, this will continue at some level, but I don't know how consistent it can be for like a rookie. But Matt Stafford's a great quarterback, so you do have that advantage of having a guy who knows what he's doing, who can move defenders on the field, with just by being in the pocket with his eyes and all that, and he can help him out a lot. So I think that's a big advantage. But for me, when Kupp comes back, he's a wide receiver too. Like they're not going to go back to having Tutu or Van Jefferson just field stretch, which is what they mainly can do. They have a guy here who is diverse and dynamic, and he can play on the inside like Kupp can. He can play on the outside like Kupp can. So they can kind of alternate where those guys go. And then they can have, if they want to do their 3 wide receiver set, they can have Tutu or Van Jefferson. One of those guys probably will be stretching the field a little bit more. So that, in my opinion, like that's already kind of locked in. He's not going to see 15 targets when Kupp comes back. That's for sure. No, but I can see, you see guys on this team in the past, like Ben Skronik, get 5 receptions. Guys on the team spread the ball like that. I think you could see a little bit more concentration of those kind of targets go towards a guy like Puka long term. So you could see him more in like the 5 to 7 target, range, and those being quality targets as long as Matt Stafford's there. I think he has a lot to work. He has a lot of work to do in terms of like refining his game as a route runner. I've always said this. He's good enough for sure. He's not like bad. He doesn't round out every route, but he does do some of that. And I think as he improves that part of his game, if he improves that part of his game, he'll become a lot more consistent of a player. That's just, you got to see if he can do that.
Real quick on the opposite side of that game, how concerned, if at all, are you about the Seahawks?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how concerned I am. I think Tyler Lockett got banged up in the middle of that game, which shouldn't impact them too much. Gino didn't look amazing. The line didn't look amazing.
I think they lost 2 of their tackles for the game.
Yeah. I think they lost 2 of their tackles for this next game as well. So that obviously was a massive impact. So yeah, that's concerning. It's a little concerning, but you think that if they can get that line healthy long term, it should be okay. Really, I think more how their defense got kind of diced up by a talentless outside of Stafford, a talentless really Rams offense. Yeah, that's concerning that, but you would think that they'd be chasing a lot, and that'd be good for the passing game. That'd be good for fantasy. But if they don't have any tackles, then it ain't going to be good for the passing game. So, it all needs to come together for them, I think, a little bit more.
All right, next one. What did I learn? I think I only want Travis Kelce as any of the pass catchers in KC. Like, my boy Sky Moore, he was actually out there a whole lot, but I think he only got 3 targets. One of them he caught, and it got called back on a penalty. Kadarius Toney can't catch. MVS does what MVS. I think he's a serviceable flex, but like other than that, it's like it's just gonna be random dudes like scoring random touchdowns until Kelce comes back, and then I think we could all just like have Kelce.
Yeah, I mean, Rashee Rice had a touchdown in that game.
Yeah.
So he, like you said, he was the guy with the touchdown, but it could easily have been any of the other 4 guys that Uriah just mentioned. So he could end the game with 8 points instead of whatever, 12, 15, or whatever the hell he scored. So, yeah, I like how you said, Sky Moore, he was out there. He was out there. He didn't do anything, but he was out there.
Didn't do anything.
They need Kelce back, and they need him back bad. And you don't really want anybody else there. They haven't. It reminds me of kind of the Patriots with Tom Brady towards the end of his career, though this isn't even that far along with Patrick Mahomes, like where they leaned on him too much and didn't get him the requisite talent around him. They had Gronk. They did have that, and it worked. But when you don't have Gronk, you rely all on Patrick Mahomes to fix everything. And I think they find themselves in that place right now without being able to pay Tyreek and that all falling apart. They need to get somebody for him, and they need to get somebody fast. Otherwise, it's just going to be tough for them to navigate, and tough for Patrick Mahomes to see his fantasy upside without, I think, a really talented pass catcher outside of Kelce. Once Kelce's back, it'll help a good deal, but
the last thing that I had was Pittsburgh. The running back carries there was, might as well have been a 50-50 split between Najee and Jalen Warren. I mean,
Yeah,
Najee had more. I think it was like 54-46 or something like
he
that.
was
But it
terrible
was
with it anyway. It wasn't good.
he looks slow. I don't know, man. I don't. I'd be getting out on Najee. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to do now. I think getting out on Najee was probably a couple months back in the off season, but
The
yeah,
whole team looked bad.
it's the whole team did look bad. There's really no way around that. It's hard. It's like you want the Pittsburgh Steelers to not be good. It's not like I have any love for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they have a lot of like interesting weapons on offense, and you're like they should
Yeah.
be good, and I should get fantasy points out of these guys, but time and time again, you're just like, they're not as good as I thought they were, and they're not giving me the fantasy points. And some of it's injury with Deontay Johnson, but then I think a lot of it is maybe the talent isn't quite where you want it to be, expected it to be originally with like Najee. And I mean, we weren't always on George Pickens, but I think people have a much higher expectation of George Pickens than we
Me
do.
and you.
And I think that's part of kind of, where we look at it and we're like, why are we getting what we expect out of this team? And I like Kenny Pickett enough, and I think that he has enough around him to do well, but it's not manifesting in week 1. We'll have to see if it continues on.
Yeah.
So yeah, Demario Douglas might be a thing. That's one thing I picked out of the Patriots game, which there's a good deal in there. I think they don't have a good receiving core, but Demario Douglas, a guy who most people probably never heard of, gets 7 targets in his first game out. Not a lot of people are going to hone in on that. Not a lot of people are going to be paying attention to that, but I think that he has potential to become the slot target for the New England Patriots. And with the way that Mac Jones plays, the way that Bill O'Brien is going to want to kind of really, I think the only way they can do it is kill you by 1,000 cuts kind of thing. And beat you that way. I think that, he'll see a lot of volume. It'll be short area, but he's an explosive guy. So Demario Douglas is a guy to keep your eye on for the New England Patriots. Outside of that, I mean, it's not great over there. They almost beat the Eagles. The Eagles, I thought the most interesting thing from the Eagles game in terms of fantasy was Dallas Goedert with 0 catches, getting he was getting the T. Higgins treatment this week.
Oh, I forgot to even mention that.
Brutal. But yeah, I thought that was interesting because, Dallas Goedert was going as kind of like a top 6 tight end and, even like redraft best ball. Like he's pretty highly touted, and it's just looking like there's not enough targets to really go around, or not enough kind of focus on that position with the way that they play the game. I think for him to be consistently productive, I'm very concerned about Dallas Goedert because I think most of the targets, if not all of them, are going to be funneled through AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. And then honestly, it seems like this is the way it is with the running quarterbacks, right? The running back targets and the tight end targets are hindered because they just as soon run the ball. They just as soon use their legs and get out wide and get it to a wide receiver downfield maybe. So I just think it's going to be a problem all year, and that first game was not encouraging for Goddard.
Yeah, something interesting about the Patriots that I'm sure I heard somewhere else, but the pace of play, I think they were snapping the ball with like 14 seconds left. So they had one of the fastest pace of plays out there. I don't know if that's good or not. I've seen.
You said the Patriots?
Yeah, I think they were snapping the ball with like 14 seconds left. So
yeah, I mean,
I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing for fantasy. I'm not really entirely sure, but
I mean, it's a good thing because that means the Patriots are a professional NFL offense with Bill O'Brien, coordinating this team. I think what it means is that they have intent on what they're doing. They're trying to score points in these spots. They see a flaw in the armor on Philly's D, and they say that, getting, going fast pace here is going to, put them on their heels. So I think in terms of kind of scheme, that's what you want to see is like, at least they're kind of heading in the right direction and they have purpose, because last year they didn't have that. So you could see that in the first game. I mean, they almost beat Philly. I mean, Mac Jones, I heard him in his press conference. It was good to hear. he does look better. It was good to hear. He took it all on himself. He's like, this was all my fault. The defense gave me 2 chances to win this game at the end, and I couldn't do it. And he's like, I'm going to have to live with that. And it's true. He is going to have to live with that because we gave him 2 chances in plus territory, and they couldn't get it done. And that could have been a huge win for the Patriots. And I think, fantasy managers would have been looking at this whole thing a lot different. I mean, even coming out of that game, Mac Jones had like 30 fantasy points. He actually had a really productive game from from fantasy perspective. So if he could win games and do that and keep himself as a starting quarterback in the league, we might have something here. We might have a Kirk Cousins type thing here, but he can't get over the hump right now.
Yep. Next one, Giants look terrible. It's true. I mean, hey, I don't want to besmirch Daniel Jones's name here. Bro. They were playing my Dallas Cowboys. I gotta tell you, that day, as you know, we're sitting here. I was watching Red Zone. I'm sitting here watching.
Let me tell you how great that day was.
Yeah, let me tell you. I got time. This is my podcast. I was sitting here watching Red Zone on our Discord, going back and forth, which was lit, by the way. Join our Discord. It was so much fun. Way better
Always
than
is.
Scrolling Twitter for like some random shit. Like, it was so fun. It was like play-by-play of all the cool stuff. But I had to leave. I got called. I was on call at work, and it's one of those things I have to do like every 6 weeks. And I never get called in, but I was telling my wife like the day before I was eating breakfast with her, I'm like, hey, check this out. I'm like, I haven't been called in like a year. This is week 1 of the NFL season. I bet your ass I get called in. And I took a little break to go like mow the lawn or something in between, like right as like the afternoon games were starting. And they called me in. And I was like, this is like the worst thing. I just want to sit down and watch my game and enjoy my time. Like this is my day. So I was really pissed off, right? But I come home and I get to listen to the Seahawks announcers hate their lives because Seahawks just went out there and just got totally embarrassed by their division rival. And then I get to have steak and mashed potatoes and corn on the cob and just relax. I'm home from work. I got the job done at work. And then I get to turn on my Dallas Cowboys and watch them play the Giants as they do every week. And I watched every minute of that game. 40-0. My Dallas Cowboys just put an absolute spanking on the Giants. And I loved every minute. My wife was looking at me. There's like 4 minutes left in the game. It's like 40-0. And she's looking at me like, it's over, right? Like, you could turn this off. And I'm like, I'm not doing that.
I'm just savoring every last second of this.
Every second. I even watched like the post game. Like, I don't care. I don't care. I earned
those post games are the best when you're a fan, by the way. You're just lapping it up. You're lapping it up. You're just like, oh yeah, give me the old standard quarterback talk, please. I love it. I mean, by the way,
my story. It was awesome.
What is, first of all, as it should be. I hate that you had to go to work, but I love that story for you. And I love that you got to come home and enjoy your team with a crushing victory for sure. But incredibly is that Dak Prescott puts up like 6 fantasy points. Like it was like the most ridiculous game no concern at all for Dallas, obviously. I mean, that was just they just put a whooping on him and could just kind of rest easy. But for Daniel Jones and company, I mean, look, Dallas has a great defense. Absolutely. Like they have a great front 7 too, and they're going to put it to you. So tough game for Dallas. And I mean, for Daniel Jones and company, but that was terrible. Like that. I mean,
it was bad.
I mean, I'm not even super excited about what I saw with Darren Waller in that game. Obviously Saquon Barkley. I mean, they were playing from behind. It was just, I don't know, man. I mean, there's going to be some games obviously where they're not playing Dallas and they're not playing a defense like that, and they probably can perform a little bit better. But that's I don't know what to say about that. I'm not liking anything. I mean, I'm hoping that maybe that's week 1, kind of like the Bengals. The Bengals put up an absolute stinker against Cleveland, which we'll talk about in a second. But that's obviously not the Bengals. So maybe this isn't the Giants, but it kind of seems like it's more like the Giants than the Bengals are not what they were week 1. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The Giants seem like this is who they are.
You just kind of like just forget that it happened and just try to like focus on what happens in week 2, because maybe what happens in week 2 matters more. I don't know.
Yeah. Fair enough. But it was brutal. That was tough to watch.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, Cleveland's D is legit. I mean, they definitely are. They are serious. First of all, Miles Garrett.
Dog.
They had a play where he was standing up at like middle linebacker. And he was like, dancing around, and then just like that is the scariest thing. Myles Garrett standing up and rushing at you, not down in a 3-point stand. Like, no, dude, that was intense. They were
Just like
serious.
rocking back and forth. Like, I don't know. Am I coming left? Am I coming right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was doing like I think it was him who was doing the crossover thing. He was like doing like the Jordan crossover thing, like 4 times before the snap, and then just goes like that's
Sick.
He's feeling himself. And that's huge, dude. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and their cornerbacks are really good. Their secondary is really good. The whole team is pretty solid, and I think Deshaun Watson put on a pretty good performance. That's going a little bit underrated. Like he rushed for a touchdown. You saw some of his rushing work coming back there. Nobody's talking about it, but he looked a little bit better. Not great, not perfect, especially in the passing game. There's some work to do there. I don't think it was all perfect. I think Amari Cooper had like 7 targets, caught 3 of them. Njoku like 2 targets. They got some work to do, but yeah, they got something there, and they really put it to Cincinnati, who had a tough day. And honestly, like you just got to hope that there's better days ahead. T. Higgins had 0 points but 8 targets. Like, how many times is that going to happen?
Never again. Yeah. Oh yeah. So next one, Baker Mayfield. Like I said in the chat, he looked okay.
I was talking a lot of trash about Tampa Bay, but he looked a lot better. He looked a lot better than I expected. Yeah.
I think there's part of it where he realizes he had the situation in his career where it's like if he could just get a little bit of Fitz magic. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, this is if he could just have some of that with the swag he already possesses, and he is a talented passer. He just makes some pretty bad decisions. He's always held on to the ball too long. A lot of sacks are on him. Just some decision-making things. But if he just like starts throwing caution to the wind a little bit more, I think this could be a fun Tampa offense. But he looked bad. You can't say he looked bad. He looked okay.
No. And what's crazy is the rushing game was terrible. Like, rushing game looks awful.
Oh, Rachaad White was trash.
Well, he stinks. Like, let's just stop this whole thing. And we have if
every advanced metric.
If you need any more reason to not listen to these player profiler talking heads, then the guy who said that Rachaad White was better than Breece Hall and every other player in that class and the one before it, I think.
Yeah.
Then I don't know what you need to hear, but yeah, Rachaad White, he stinks. 17 for 39, like a 2.4 yards per attempt. I mean, come on. But with Chris Godwin and with Mike Evans there, like those are probably the 2 best receivers he's played with. I mean, I know OBJ obviously was there in Cleveland with him with Jarvis Landry, but I think this version of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are probably better. So he does have that advantage, which is showing itself, I think, in week 1. But honestly, I think the story of this game more so was, how bad the Vikings were. They lost this game, right?
They did.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe they lost this game. And, Jordan Addison, rookie debut, big touchdown, exciting to see. And I think that's the kind of stuff that you're going to need out of him as a fantasy player, like to get open downfield with his route running ability, because the press stuff, it could cause, some issues. But honestly, if he's going to be able to do that, then you're fine. So no worries with him. Justin Jefferson does this thing, but it was Kirk Cousins not being able to get it done again in crunch time. It was, I don't think the running game was really good. I'm a little concerned without Alexander Madison all season long, and we weren't really into him anyway, but I think I'm mostly concerned coming out of the game with the Minnesota Vikings. Again, I think they look a lot like they did last year, to be honest with you.
Yeah. There was a lot of bot snaps, some fumbles by Kirk Cousins, just a lot of turnovers and just some bad mistakes. I think
you'd like to say that's atypical, but that's kind of what he does.
A little bit, yeah. But for fantasy, I think it's fine for us. If I'm a Vikings fan, I'm more concerned. But as a fantasy player, I'm not really concerned to have any of these players. I'm not the running backs. No, I mean, it looks terrible. I don't want anything to do with any of them. But Addison and Justin Jefferson, I think they're going to be just fine.
Even Kirk, honestly, you're right about this because even Kirk Cousins, I mean, he
Well,
outscored
20
a lot of
points was,
quarterbacks. Yeah.
yeah,
So it's
it's fine.
like, they could be, if they're going to be chasing points, that's probably a good thing for fantasy, but
Yeah.
not a good thing for Alexander Madison and company. That's for sure.
Yeah, we already talked about this one. Arthur Smith hates fantasy football players. He hates us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's all we
I
got to
mean,
say.
honestly, if you play fantasy football, you can't be an Atlanta Falcons fan. Like, you have to switch to something else. Go be a Panther fan or something. I don't care. Find the nearest town near you and pick that team.
It's brutal. It's brutal, bro. Like, yeah, I don't know what we're going to do with this. We don't need to talk about it again, but
No.
yeah, it sucks. All right, Ridley has still got the goods. All right,
He's still good.
This cat. You know what? You know what's funny is like obviously it doesn't always work out this way, I guess. But I think you focus again. This is one of those things where I say if you have your finger on the pulse in the NFL, you kind of know what's going on. You have an edge. And I think when I read the Player Tribune article from Calvin Ridley detailing, what he went through, how he feels about coming back, how energized he is, motivated he is, you kind of knew it was real. It's like reading the Tariq Cohen article, the Player Tribune article. These guys are spilling out their guts, and you can tell if they're being real or not. I think, not everybody can, I guess, but I think, if you're genuine, you can generally parse out when these guys are being real or not. And I think when I read that thing, I was like, dude, this guy is going to come back and absolutely dominate. I think pending health, which is always a concern with a guy who missed so much time, man, he's just going to show out this year. He already did it this first game, 10 catches or at least 10 targets, but something like that, touchdown. I mean, he looks the part. He is the part. He's everything he was when he was in Atlanta. It's really exciting to see. I'm super stoked about this.
Trevor Lawrence is picking up exactly where he left off last year. Thank God, Doug Peterson, I don't like you because you went to the Super Bowl with the Eagles, and we'll never forgive you for that. But you came in and you saved this young man's career. Trevor
Absolutely.
Lawrence, the 101 for so many years before he was even drafted. He comes out and he gets Urban Meyer and just destroys this young man. Doug Peterson comes in, picks him up, says, hey, I got you, kid. Let's do this. And so, yeah, thank you, Doug Peterson, for saving Trevor Lawrence. And they're going to be just fine there. Christian Kirk, I'm a little bit worried about, but
you nailed it. That's what I wanted to say. Absolutely. Very concerned. Not a little concerned. Very because honestly, Calvin Ridley nuked his target share.
Yeah. And then on the opposite side, we have Zay Jones, who just happens just to always ball out nowadays. Like whenever it matters. You see that catch by Zay Jones?
Dude.
Like the catch.
Holy shit. I mean, that catch in the end zone was sick. First of all, he caught it with two hands, but had to release one of his hands to kind of, I guess, balance, secure himself, and held on to it like he had stickum on his glove. I don't like that. Isn't he the guy who years and years and years ago has the video of him like coming up off the ground like a ghost, like elevating himself? Right, that's him.
Yeah,
He's just an unbelievable
specimen.
Athlete.
Yes.
Specimen, absolutely. And I think he might not be. I don't know what it is that Christian Kirk does better because they're very different players. But he might be like a more technically sound receiver than Zay Jones is. But Zay Jones is more dynamic, and I think he's like more versatile, but he's definitely not as reliable, I would say. But Trevor Lawrence loves him. I mean, you can confidently start Zay Jones. He has 7 targets.
Yep, and I will be
7 targets. That's great.
It's just like if they're going to be running out 2 wide receivers, like it's not going to be Christian Kirk and one of these other guys. It's going to be Ridley and Zay. So you just got to think about that. It's not that Christian Kirk was the best wide receiver on the team last year. Usage standpoint and somebody you could trust a little bit more. They didn't have Calvin Ridley last year. Things change. I still like Christian Kirk, but I am concerned about like really the expectation that we could have for him going forward. Is he still a guy you want to have in your flex spot? Probably. We'll see, but I'd rather be flexing Zay Jones.
Yeah, I would too at this point, to be honest. Maybe that's short-sighted. Maybe that's short-sighted, but I don't know if it is because Zay Jones was doing this kind of stuff last year too, alongside Christian Kirk. So it's like, does he just like Zay Jones more? You know what I mean? Is that and is Zay Jones just in the right spots, in a better spot, in a better position because maybe he's the third guy, and the defense always has a softer player on him. Whatever the reason is, it seems to be that he's able to work well within this scheme. If they're scheming him open, I don't know what it is, but he's definitely effective, and he's week one more effective than Christian Kirk. That's for sure. Now, Christian Kirk is going to have some explosive games. He's going to have a 60-yard touchdown here and there. Like, that's what he does. So again, like we're saying, like, you're going to put him in your flex. Don't get me wrong, but I'm definitely a lot more concerned about the consistency and yeah, I think there's probably some better options out there than Christian Kirk at this point. But Calvin Ridley absolutely dominating. What did you think about the other side of the ball with Anthony Richardson?
Anthony Richardson looked good. I think he was
thought
making,
so too.
He was making some pretty good, NFL level quarterback type throws. He didn't look like the game was too big for him as a rookie quarterback. I mean, he looked like the best rookie quarterback out there on the field. CJ Stroud and poor Bryce Young, but he'll figure it out. And he will. He'll be fine.
Hey, we've been talking up Hayden Hurst all offseason long, or at least I have.
And what happened?
Exactly. Touchdown, week one. All right, sorry, I had to say that. Right.
No, he absolutely killed it. And he would have been in pretty much it seems like almost every league where I had Waller, I had Hurst, and I had Hurst in there just in case Waller didn't play. And then when I saw that Waller was active, I put Waller in. I did end up with Hurst in one league, but yeah, you nailed it. I'd say collectively, we had a pretty good idea of what would be a pretty good idea. And yeah, Hurst was the dude, and he's going to be that way going forward for at least a little while. They don't really have anything else going on there. Hurst has been a reliable receiver for quarterbacks for quite a few years now. And I think it's going to continue. Bryce Young's going to get better. He has to, he's young, he's a rookie, but yeah, going back to Anthony Richardson, I think he looked fine. I like that he used his legs. I like that he used his arms, and I like the players that he used. Josh Downs was out there looking pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, I was pretty low.
Pittman scored a touchdown, didn't he?
No, Pittman scored a touchdown. Yeah, I made the trade for Ayuk in a second. I got Ayuk in a second and I traded away Pittman. So I still feel pretty good about it, but I always think about Pittman, like, because I didn't really think that Pittman was going to do as well as he's already done in week one.
Brandon Ayuk, my God.
I know. So happy about that.
I mean, yeah. Oh, I had him in a league absolutely just dominate. That oh my goodness. Yeah, that was great.
But yeah, Anthony Richardson looked great. He did get the concussion or something there at the end. I mean, he got banged up. So he's going to have to learn. These guys in the NFL are faster, bigger, and stronger than you're used to seeing. You're not now the big, fastest, strongest guy in the field. You're still very, very, very big, fast, and strong, but so are those other guys, bud. So
I like how you said concussion or something. Like he got something.
Well, he got hit in the head, but then they were saying like, "Oh, my knee hurt." I'm like, "Well, I saw you. I saw you at the goal line get hit in the fucking head."
Now that's the sign of a concussion when you get hit in the head and your knee hurts.
That's what he said. He said my knee hurt. I was like, I don't know.
I mean, I think I saw the hit at the end. He got absolutely obliterated, and it was.
They didn't mention.
And no, but I don't think he got hit in the head. But he definitely got a little shaken up, and I mean, yeah, dude, he is one of those guys who needs to learn how to slide, how to like not get hit. Otherwise, he's going to absolutely get crushed this year. And he's
back and watch Cam Newton's career and try not to do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Watching them though makes you wonder, like, man, if JT can come back week 5, that could be exciting because they looked pretty good. They almost won that game. Like they weren't far away from winning that game. It was a very tight game. So I'm pretty excited about what I saw there from Anthony Richardson. I thought he looked a lot better than I thought he would look in his first game. So yeah. All right. Last one I want to mention here, just because it was absolutely the most exciting game of the week. Tua is on fire. Tua's legit. I mean, Riley, we love you, buddy. But the bits got it. You got to give it up, right? Come on, man. like Tua is the man. Like I think, if he can stand up, if they can keep him stood up, they keep him safe back there in the pocket. They're gonna do some crazy things this year. Like what I saw from that offense, the fact that they could consistently get the ball downfield that far so effectively. Like 20 yard catches seemed like 5-yard slants to them. You know what I mean? Yeah, if they're going to be the Chargers aren't the best defense, but they're not the worst defense. They have Derwin James back there. They have J.C. Jackson back there. They're not slouches by any means. So somebody said that draft in the background is sus. Listen, get with the program. It's watching you at all times. All right, all times.
This is for those who care, this is Dawn. It's my kid's draft. It's become part of the show for whatever reason.
Tua is a real boy. That's absolutely right. Tua is a real boy. Yeah, Tua is legit, and I think that I don't know. There's probably not much actionable off of this in
Not
terms
really.
of Miami side. Like they are who we thought they were if Tua is healthy, right? Like,
Yeah.
and hopefully you got him cheap this offseason. There's absolutely no buying into any of these pieces right now. Backfield is booty, and
Booty.
yeah. What do you think about the Chargers, though?
It's fine. I really, my QJ shares were a little sad, but I think they thanks. Yeah, we love Don too, but I think the Chargers are gonna be just fine. They just put up like 30+ points on them. Like they're gonna do that often. They're gonna do that a lot with Kellen Moore. So they ran up. Josh Kelly got a ton of work, so I'm kind of not sure what to do. I spent like a ton of fab on him on Scott Fishbowl. I had to get rid of Jeff Wilson because like whatever. But yeah, I don't know. One thing I got to say about Tua, they asked him in a quote was like, "Hey, how about the deep ball? Are you worried about being accurate on the deep ball?" And I think he said, "I don't care, like 466 or something like that," because he put up so many yards. Like, good for him.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
look,
get him some confidence. You know what I mean? And I think that's what the
Yes.
Mike McDaniel's there. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to take 2 on my wings. Like, you are the guy. Let's go." And I think that's all he really needs to beat that dude.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, I think that having that attitude is good for some players, right? Like, it's good for a lot of players. You want them to be confident and go into these games and feel themselves. I mean, emotion matters in these games. Like, moments matter. And if you can come in with energy and you can keep that energy up all season, like that can impact the way you guys, the way your team plays. So I love that. I love the energy he's been bringing all off season. He's been kind of taking it to anybody, all the haters and everything. So that's been pretty consistent for them. In terms of the Chargers, I think, you're right. They look pretty good. I think Josh Kelly was a really big surprise. I love what I'm seeing out of him. But I think the most concerning thing for me, or anybody who is a buyer, believer, whatever you want to call it, of Quentin Johnston, is 27% snap share, 3 targets. I mean, he caught 2 of them, 9 yards. I don't like that, man. Like, it's week 1, but when you're seeing guys like Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, I mean, JSN, look, he didn't ball out by any means, but he was, who knows what it would have been like if Tyler Lockett was healthy all game, but he was involved more. I think he had 5 or 6 targets. I don't know, man. It's just with all those guys doing something, Rashee Rice, like you almost name it. You know what I mean? You name it, and it's like, I mean, but it almost does make sense. They have 2 stud wide receivers. They have Mike Williams and they have Keenan Allen. It's like, but I think Mike Williams was out with like a head injury for some part of the game and came back.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought that would be
it's
QJ's
not great.
Q.
It's not great.
But
yeah,
no, I'm a little concerned.
Well done, professional.
Thanks,
QJ's
thanks.
Q. Don't worry, I'll notice. I won't let that go fast.
Thank you. I work for these, man.
Yes. I'm concerned about that, man. That's not good. I don't love that.
But I'm gonna act like it didn't happen. So
yeah. All right, we'll forget about that. Week 1, right? Chalk it up to week 1.
that's right.
Oh boy. All right. I think that's all we got on the week 1 recap.
Yep.
There was a lot of great football, man. It was exciting. There's a lot of sloppy football too. So
yeah,
hopefully we can keep it up in week 2. Yeah.
We could do the yearly FOB debate real quick. Just
well, it's not like we don't even need to talk about it that long. It's just more that I feel like we've been having these discussions in Discord a lot, and we've been seeing them happen everywhere.
Yeah. So just a big thing with the FOB, like my standpoint is, especially in a week 1 like this, where there's actually seems like a lot of, not a lot, but more than you would see in week 8 opportunity to go out there and get a guy, just go ahead and blow your fob. Like, that's just how I always feel about it. Like, you're not going to miss it. You're going to be better off not having it, because then you don't have to worry about setting waivers and stuff like that because you don't have any money left. Like, just go out there and blow your load early on one of these guys, like a Puka Nacua, Kylan Williams, Rico Dowdle, Josh Kelly, which, you know, he probably rostered in most Dynasty leagues, but there are some leagues that maybe he's not rostered in. Justice Hill, he's probably not rostered in a lot of leagues. Gus Edwards, he might still be out there in some of those leagues. Go out and get those guys. Just go out there and spend whatever it takes to get those guys and don't look back. That's how I feel about it. You can't take it with you. It doesn't roll over to next year, right? So spend it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I just quickly echo what Uriah is saying here. It doesn't make sense to hold it like, you know, you're not okay. I think what happens is they think about redraft, right? And they're like, got to have some fab towards the end of the season, but this isn't redraft. The waiver wire is so thin already. You know, for the most part, what opportunities are available. And to be honest, and I said this in the Discord, Justice Hill should have been rostered by somebody. Like, we know that J.K. Dobbins is fragile, right? Mm-hmm. What was behind J.K. Dobbins? Justice Hill. And Justice Hill, right? But like, when you go into waivers and you're looking for guys and you're looking for running backs, like, because that's what you do, right? You roster all the backup running backs. Why are we letting Justice Hill sit out there? Because if J.K. Dobbins goes down, we know that it's going to be Gus Edwards and probably some Justice Hill mixed in. What we didn't know for sure was that Monken would like Justice Hill and what he brought to this offense, maybe in terms of like the passing game a little bit more than what the previous regime liked out of Gus Edwards. So, you know, I think that's part of the allure of Justice Hill. Like, you saw him get involved, you saw him score a touchdown. And I think you saw that he was involved in a little bit different ways than Gus Edwards could be. And he's a little more dynamic, maybe. He's not a bus, obviously. He's not going to run people over like that. But I think they can have a little 1-2 punch that's different than what they've had in the past when somebody goes down there. Now, that said, when you see a guy like that is on waivers and you think to yourself, wow, why, like, he should have been rostered, that's a guy you got to go spend like 60% of your fab on, right? At least I spent 70% of my fab on in most places on him, because my mindset is, and this is kind of how it's always played out, I'll have enough to make the transactions I need along the way, because most likely I'm not going to need to make a bulk transaction like that again, because the waiver wire is so thin. Now, my job now is, because Justice Hill was sitting there, let me go find out who else is sitting there that could potentially be in that kind of position and ensure that he is on my roster, so that I don't get into this position down the road where I wish I had some money because, you know, something happens and I want to pick him up and yada, yada, yada. So I think, you know, there's obviously potential down the road that somebody else comes up that would be worth this kind of drop. It's much less likely as the year goes on. And I think that you just need to be more cognizant of trying to identify those players before it comes to that, and make sure they're on your roster the week before or 2 weeks before, you know, the shoe drops. Yeah.
Cool. Let's hop into some trades and non-trades.
I didn't quickly echo, by the way. I didn't quickly echo. That was a lot. I slowly echoed your
it's quick for you.
Your feelings on the fab. Lengthy echo.
I was a little. Right. I talk a little faster. So yeah, trades and non-trades. This next one is actually just a redraft one. I put it on there because I thought we could talk about it, but I talked about it pretty much throughout the Discord. Short story is, I lost J.K. Dobbins in a redraft league, and the guy who has Gus Edwards says, hey, I'll give you Gus Edwards for 20, or actually he said 15 fab. I said, okay, that's 15% of my fab. Let's do it. I don't have to worry about waivers, and he could have more money to outbid whoever they want. This league happens to have a voting system, so you can veto, and like, they hate me because I won last year. I left work because they're all down in California and up here in Seattle living my life, and they wish they had my job. And he's like, well, you still want to do it? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, you do it for 20. I said, I'll do it for 20% fab. Again, I don't care. I still have $80 that I don't even really need. I should have probably blown more and more people. Anyways, long story short, I end up with Gus Edwards, and I spent 20% of my fab. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, like, that's, I mean, if you were listening to what I just said, Obviously, this is redraft, so it's a little different. But again, like I'd be willing to spend up to like 40% of my fab in redraft probably on Gus
Yeah.
Edwards. Depending on how deep the league is, obviously. But yeah, in the right situation. So yeah, 20% fab is great. Like but I also don't think it's like stealing. Like I don't think it should. First of all, nothing should be vetoed. So I just end it there.
Thank
but
you.
yeah.
Like, I don't want to get into all that tonight, but like, yeah, we hashed it out already.
Yeah, we don't need to do that. If you want to hear more about that, go and hop into Discord.
Join the Discord.
Plenty of talk about that in there. Before we hop on to the other ones we have here, I did just get an offer for another offer, actually from the same person who sent me the Puka one that's on our list here. Another offer for a Puka Nacua share, and it's a 2nd round pick in 2024 and Jake Ferguson.
Oh, we didn't even talk about Jake Ferguson. He had a lot of drops, but he had a ton of
7 targets, right? 7 targets.
Yeah, his target share was amazing. They're gonna still keep throwing to him.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
God, I don't know. Like,
here's like the process is right. The process is right, and taking the second.
Yes, it is. But don't you just like?
I don't want to. I want to be right. I don't want to be right.
I know. It's like you should probably move off of Puka.
If moving Puka is right, I don't want to be right.
I know. Here's a good one. You could always say, if I'm not right, then something's wrong.
There you go.
I tell my wife that. I'm like, well, if I'm not right, then something's wrong. I don't know. I think the smart move is to probably take the second in Fergie and just move along. But I mean, the fun thing is to keep Puka and enjoy the ride.
I think where I'm at with players like this is like the acquisition cost wasn't enough. Puka gang, let's go. Yeah. The acquisition cost was so little that it's like, is the return on the investment even enough to like, for me, you know what I mean? It's like, why don't I just wait it out and see what happens? Like, it's not like I spent a lot to get the guy. It's like,
it's just like
unless you're wowing me with the offer, why am I giving up my fun? You know?
Yeah.
And like I could probably get, I don't know, I could get the second. Seconds aren't that hard to get. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not that hard to get. I don't know. I probably should take the second, but I don't think I am. And I don't know. That's probably a bad process, but I'm going to stick with Puka gang.
Puka. All
right. Since we're on that one, let me just run through this last one with Puka. Brian Robinson or Puka Nacua.
I don't really like I like Brian Robinson more than the other running backs there. Man, what's that kid's name? They have another running back there that got some work too.
Chris Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. Thank you. So, just ride with Puka. Fuck it.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree with that. I think I'd way quicker take the second in Fergie than Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Okay, I saw this one get done. I think it might have been in like a guillotine league type thing, but it doesn't really matter. What do you think about Zach Wilson for 2.24 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, he's a starting quarterback for a team.
I think I want the 2 seconds. Oh, that's such a terrible endorsement. Yeah, I mean, he's a starting quarterback for a team. I mean, so is Desmond Ridder. Like, I don't want Desmond Ridder either.
I would take Zach Wilson over Desmond Ridder. Hey, Zach Wilson had a whole 3 months to learn behind Aaron Rodgers. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I think I would agree with that.
It's terrible. I think I'd probably just want my seconds, to be honest with you.
Very little conviction. Yeah.
Zach Wilson isn't going to do anything for your team unless you lost Aaron Rodgers and like you're hoping to for something.
Yeah, if you lucked out like on a dynasty team where you have Zach Wilson, you got him off waivers or something and he's your 4th quarterback, and go sell him for a couple seconds right now. Like, just do that. Sure. Don't think twice about it either. I don't care. I don't. If we're wrong and he becomes what he was supposed to be, so be it. Like, it does not look like that's going to happen. So I'm okay with being wrong and getting my seconds.
Yeah, I wouldn't look back. It's fine.
I got an offer for JT, of course. course, I got this offer for JT. Tank Bigsby, Zach Charbonnet, and a second for JT.
JT. So
yeah, right. Like,
Bigsby's still second running back there. Charbonnet's still second running back there. The second still second. So JT's going to come back. JT's going to be just fine. I wouldn't do that.
no, I mean, look what we're seeing from the Colts without JT right now. I want to see what the Colts look like with JT. I think that if they can keep performing like that, it's going to just entice him to want to kind of see what it looks like with himself there too. So
that's a really good point too. If that team is doing well,
yeah,
he might be more willing to come back and do a good job.
That's all I'm saying. So I'm keeping my eye on it. I think I'm holding JT at the very least, unless I get a great offer, like a couple first, like something like I said before, like market value offer. Give me that, I'll take it. But I think I'm just gonna ride with JT until about week 5 and see if something changes. He comes back, gets traded, whatever the deal is. See what happens. All right, last one here. This is little one, but just thought it was kind of interesting. Tyler Boyd or a third.
Tyler Boyd.
Yeah. And it's like you're not going to get a second for him, but also like I feel like Tyler Boyd's probably better than whatever I get of that third for the next couple of years anyway. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
He's fine.
Yeah.
In a situation, you could probably flex Tyler Boyd. He'll probably do better than he did week 1. And the third just doesn't do anything for me, man. Sorry.
I also feel like this is one of those situations we forget, like in the off chance that, T. Higgins goes down or, Jamar Chase goes down, and obviously we don't want any of that to happen. Tyler Boyd slides right into the wide receiver 2 role there, and that's Joe Burrow throwing him the ball. So I'd like that on my fantasy roster.
Cool, man. Anything else you want to talk about?
Nah, dude, we crushed it. Listen, for week 1 recap, went well over an hour here. I think we're doing a good job.
I think so. It's fun. Having football back is just fun.
It's been great.
It's good for the
too
soul.
many injuries, but it's been great.
I know. Hopefully, be better next year. All right. If you want to follow us on Twitter at Dynasty Underdog, at Uriah Dawkins, and at Billy Beeman DFF. Join our Discord. It's free. It's awesome. It's lit, especially during the game times. We have all these episodes are on YouTube, and if you can listen to us on Spotify, if you will. That'd really help us out. Other than that, have a really good night, guys.
Peace out, fam.
Peace out.